Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing fine and are taking care of yourselves. My name is Kanika Tandon and I'm here with the video of Class 8 English 2nd. As your second unit tests are over, we are back with the online classes and YouTube videos for you all. So today we are going to start new chapter, which is chapter number 8, The Dying Detective. As you all know, this chapter has already come in your second unit test, but I couldn't complete this chapter because of the less number of days. I couldn't upload the videos. So I'm going to start this chapter again so that it is easy for you to learn from it if in case you need it in your annual examinations. Our chapter is chapter number 8, The Dying Detective. So this story is about a very famous detective whose name was Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is actually not a real person. He is just an imaginary character of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who is a very famous writer known for his uh, suspense and thriller writings. He always writes things that are in thriller genre and very in a very has a very suspense in it. So Sherlock Holmes is also one of his imaginary characters who is a very intelligent and has a very sharp logical reasoning and ability to disguise himself. He actually what is his occupation? Sherlock Holmes, he's actually a detective, right? He has a partner whose name is Dr. John Watson, who is actually a retired military a doctor, but have come as a roommate. He met Sherlock Holmes because of he wanted to live in his house as his roommate, but becomes his colleagues a little later. Let us start this chapter. He's dying, Dr. Watson, said Sherlock Holmes' landlady. He would not let me get a doctor. So this lady who is Sherlock Holmes' landlady actually tells Dr. Watson that he is dying and he won't let me get a doctor. With your leave or without it, Mr. Holmes, I'm going for a doctor, said I. So Dr. Watson says that without your permission, even if you give me permission or not, I'm getting a doctor. I was horrified, I can tell you, Dr. Watson. He has been working on a case in an alley near the river, and he has brought this illness back with him. Neither food nor drink has passed his lips ever since. So this landlady of Dr. Watson and Sherlock Holmes uh, tells Dr. Watson that she was horrified when she saw Sherlock dying, and he was working on a case in the alley, and he has brought the illness with him, and right from that time nothing has he has eaten or he has drunk. Holmes was indeed a sad spectacle. His eyes had the brightness of fever, his voice was croaking. My dear fellow, I cried, approaching him. And this landlady tells him that he was in a very sad sight. His eyes had fever and his voice was not he was not speaking very well. And Dr. Watson became very sad about listening about it, and then he said, my dear fellow, and then he cried and approached him. Stand back, stand right back, he ordered sharply. So Sherlock Holmes did not want anybody to come near him because the disease was a little contagious. But why? Because it is my desire. Is that not enough? It's for your own sake, Watson, he croaked. For my sake? I know what the matter with me is. It is a disease from Sumatra, a thing we know a little about. One thing is certain, it is deadly and it is horribly contagious. So now, when Dr. Watson wanted to come near Sherlock, he ordered him to stay away. And when Dr. Watson asked why he does not want him to come near him, he said that it was for his own sake, because the disease that he has got it from Sumatra, which is a place in east, and we know very little about this disease, and but what he knows is it is actually highly contagious. Holmes said, "I, Holmes," said I, "you are not yourself. A sick man is like a child, and so I will treat you." "You mean well, Watson," groaned the sick man. "But shall I demonstrate your ignorance? What do you know of Tapanuli's fever, or of the Black Formosa corruption?" So now Dr. John Watson says that a sick man is like a child, and so he needs to be treated. But Sherlock Holmes asked him whether he knows what a Tapanuli fever is, or what is a Black Formosa corruption. Tapanuli and Formosa are the name of the places. "I have never heard of either. There are many strange diseases in East Watson. You can do nothing." "Possibly not," I replied. "But Dr. Eng-III, who is the greatest living authority on tropical disease, is now in London. I am going this instant to fetch him." Now, Dr. Watson and Sherlock Holmes is actually having the conversation about uh, uh, since Dr. John Watson has not heard any of these strange disease. Sherlock tells him that there are many diseases that he has not heard of. That does not mean that we should not be careful about it. So Dr. John Watson says whether if he does not know how to treat the disease, but a doctor who is new in the town London, Dr. Ainstree, who is actually very good in tropical diseases, in treating tropical diseases, is in London, and he wants to treat and he John Watson wants that doctor to come and treat Sherlock. Never had I such a shock. I am instant In an instant, leaping up like a tiger. The dying man had interrupted me. I heard the sharp snap of a twisted key. The next moment he had staggered back to his bed, completely exhausted. "You won't take the key from me by force, Watson. Here you are, and here will you stay unless I wish otherwise. It is 4 o'clock, and at 6 you can go." So now Sherlock Holmes actually agrees that he can get treated, but he keeps a condition in front of John that only it is 4 o'clock, and at 6 he can go and fetch the doctor. Then John Watson says, "I seem to have no choice." "No, none at all. Now, Watson, there is one other condition I would make. You will seek help not from the man you mentioned, but from the one I chose." So now the other condition that he keeps is that Sherlock Holmes will be treated by a person, not by Dr. Ainstree, but by the doctor Sherlock wants himself to be treated. And John Watson does not have any other option other than saying yes to it. "By all means, at 6, Watson, we resume our conversation." So now it is 4 o'clock, and Dr. John Watson is still in the room, but he cannot talk to Sherlock for 2 hours. At 6, they will resume their conversation. Unable to settle down, I walked slowly around the room, examining the picture of celebrated criminals with which every wall was adorned. Finally, I came to the master mantelpiece. In the midst of a jumble of objects was a small black and white ivory box with a sliding lid. I stretched out my hand to examine it more closely. Now what happened? Now, since he cannot talk to Sherlock for 2 hours, he was unable to settle down. He was unable to understand what to do for 2 hours. So what he did, he was taking a walk around the house, and he went to the wall where there was a picture. There was a wall on which there were pictures of the criminals that Sherlock Holmes actually caught. In the middle of that, he came around a mantelpiece. You know what is a mantelpiece? A place that is above the fireplace. It is in the this is mainly a main part of the living room in most of the houses in London, not in India. So in the middle of these objects that were kept, he actually found a box which was small black and white color, and it had a sliding lid. So he stretched his out and wanted to grab it and look at it more closely. It was a dreadful cry that he gave. Put it down, down this instant, Watson. His head sunk back upon the pillow. He gave a deep sigh of relief as I kept the box upon the mantelpiece. But Sherlock Holmes did not want John to actually touch it, so he shouted like anything and actually felt okay when John did not open it and see it, and kept it on the mantelpiece back where it was kept. Thank you. That is excellent. Now you will have the kindness to place some letters and papers upon this table within my reach. There is a sugar tongue over there. Kindly raise that small ivory box with its assistance. Place it here among the papers. You can now go and fetch Mr. Culverton Smith of 13th Lower Burke Street. Now what happened? He asked Dr. John Watson to keep some papers near him and that box near him, and then he ordered him to go to 13 Lower Burke Street to get the person named Mr. Culverton Smith. We don't know he is a doctor or he is just a person. I have never heard the name, said I. So Dr. John Watson have not heard the name of this doctor. Watson, it may surprise you to know that the man who is best vested in this disease is not a medical man, but a planter. What is a planter? Owner and manager of a plantation. Mr. Smith is a well-known resident of Sumatra, now visiting London. If you could persuade him to come here and give us the benefit of his unique experience of this disease, the investigation of which has been his dearest hobby, I cannot doubt that he could help me. Now what happens? He tells Dr. John that the disease that Sherlock Holmes has cannot be treated by a doctor. It can be treated by a person named Mr. Smith, who is actually the owner of a plantation and is actually doing some research over this disease, because the disease has actually taken place from his own place. He's actually the native of that place called Sumatra, and he is sure that he will be able to actually cure him from this disease. There is no good feeling between us. His nephew Watson, the boy, died in a horrible way. I had suspicions of foul play, and I allowed him to see it. He has a grudge against me. You will soften him, Watson. Now what happens? He actually tells him that his nephew actually died in a suspicious way and very horribly, and he has a grudge against him. He has some feeling of dislike against Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson, and he wants Dr. John Watson to soften him. I will bring him a cab if I have to carry him down to it. You will do no such thing. You will persuade him to come and then return before him. Make any excuse so as to not come with him. Don't forget, Watson. Don't fail me. He lay back upon the bed, murmuring in a confused way about oceans and fishes. Now what Sherlock Holmes wants? He wants Dr. John Watson to go and ask him to come, but do not come with him. And also ask him not to fail him over this. I left him babbling like a child and descended down the steps of the house. As I stood whistling for a cab, a man came to me through the fog. And now what happened? He actually went downstairs to get a cab and to fetch Mr. Culverton Smith. But then what did he realize? He saw a man who coming towards him out of the fog. This is actually a big chapter, long chapter. So I will be giving the explanation of this chapter in my next video, which will be coming on after 4th of January because of the winter vacations that are going to start from 23rd of December to 3rd of January. So I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Take care and keep studying.